Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. This is from a guy. He is 42 years old, and he's going to share his story about events that happened a few years ago where ultimately he discovered and found proof that his wife and his younger brother were having an affair. I mean, this is the worst thing that can freaking happen. Your own brother hooking up with your wife. And ultimately, you're going to see how this guy gets revenge on them. And let me tell you, they get it. But here's the deal. You're going to see here where he plans his revenge on them, and initially what he does seems warranted. Unfortunately, things spiral out of control where it ends up being far, far worse than he actually intended. And ultimately, you guys, at the end of the story, you're going to see what happens to them. And some of you guys will think, hey, they got what they deserved. Other guys will say, no way, it was gone too far. And some of you guys will be kind of in the middle. But we shall see after I do this story, put it on YouTube. You guys comment away. I'll be curious to see your reactions to it. But let me tell you, it's not pretty. So, it starts off, he says, "Hi SSM. I'm a 42-year-old guy with a 15-year-old son, and I appreciate the content you put out there. Sooner or later, I'm going to show my son your channel when he gets a bit older." Well, bro, thank you for your support, and I thank you that you like my channel so much you want to show it to your son. Quite frankly, at 15 years old, he has to start hearing this stuff now. But you can pick and choose what you might want him to hear. Just watch the videos, save the ones you think are going to be, good for a 15-year-old, and so forth. But thank you. I have a story to share, but it's a pretty dark one. I was planning on sharing this story on Reddit, on other forums, but after a young colleague of mine showed me your channel, I decided to share it with you instead. English is not my first language, so sorry in advance for any errors. Now, this guy is obviously in a different country. I'm not sure where, but somewhere other than the US of A. Before I share my story, I need to explain my relationship with my friend Tony, since he is the catalyst for all this. As Tony and I were best friends since grade school. He came from a family of lawyers and eventually became one himself. Lawyers where I come from are, and he says in quotations, shady. Well, newsflash, I know plenty of lawyers, and lawyers are shady here too. It's in their nature. They're not all like that, but there's definitely shady lawyers around here. They take bribes and make deals with rich individuals to get certain outcomes. Newsflash, that happens everywhere. Tony was no different. Tony is a good guy at heart, but his shady dealings always make me a bit afraid to get on his dark side. I work as a financial advisor for him and his side businesses, and according to him, I saved his butt multiple times. In short, he and I are close, and he owes me one. The story. 3 years ago, I was 39 years old at the time, my wife was 37, and my brother 23. We lived in a close proximity to my parents' house. We were a happy family for the most part, and I thought my life couldn't be any better. You know how many stories have started off like that? Everything was great. I thought my life couldn't be any better, blah, 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 and then, boom. However, one day, while I was searching for some old photo albums, I stumbled upon a used pack of condoms hidden in my wife's nightstand. My wife and I haven't used contraception in a long time, since we barely had any intercourse. He says in parentheses, I was busy with work, and she was always too tired when I got home. Welcome to marriage after a while, guys, for you guys that want to get married. But how interesting. A pack of used condoms, it's been opened up, and they don't use contraceptives. And she's always too tired when he gets home. Imagine that. Well, maybe because she was getting it elsewhere. And you're going to see that's what happened. I was furious, and I immediately wanted to confront my wife. However, I decided to investigate further in order to blindside her. It's amazing you were able to keep it under control. I booted up her laptop and went snooping on her social media for hours and found strange messages between her and my brother. The messages were flirty, and when I decided to look at the pictures and videos that they sent each other, I found an abundance of, wait for it, nude images and S-word videos. It gets worse, as they were also smoking a certain substance, and I assume taking non-pharmaceutical drugs every time they met up. I almost threw the laptop in anger when I saw this. You hear all these stories about things like this going on, and it's like, why the hell are these people taking pictures and videos and putting that out there that is proof of what they're doing. And not to mention the fact that they're also on the videos and pictures using illegal substances, which in certain countries, even a certain substance here, it's not considered not that big a deal anymore, but other countries, your ass is going to jail. It's stupid. My wife, brother, and son were all at my parents' house during that time, and I went there to confront them. I barged in the door and called my brother and wife every name in the book. Thankfully, my son was asleep upstairs, so he didn't have to see any of this. My parents tried to intervene, but when I showed them the evidence of the cheating, the room went silent. My brother ran and locked himself into the guest bedroom while my wife just broke down crying. Well, he's a real man. Now, let's backtrack here. He said at the time this went down, he's 39, and the brother's 23. A substantial age difference. So this guy, obviously, the parents had him early on, and the brother and his younger brother was probably like, oops, condom broke type of scenario here. And was probably a spoiled brat, hence, as you're going to see, hence the behavior here, because he's a freaking cow running in the bedroom and closing the door and hiding. I get it's an awkward situation, but still. My mother told me to think about my son and how I shouldn't let him see me like this, so I decided to head back to my house to cool off. I was a mess, and when I got home, I just drank any bottle of alcohol I could find until I passed out. When I woke up, my phone had multiple texts from my wife and mother. I called my mother back, and she basically told me to, wait for it, get over it. Oh, thanks, Mom. That's real loving. I'm glad to know that you love me so much that when you find evidence of my wife and younger brother hooking up, doing God knows what, and not to mention substances, that you tell me to just get over it. Yeah, thanks. I love you too. I was confused by this statement, but she elaborated that I needed to keep my happy family together and how this was just a mistake made by my wife and brother. Bullshit. It's not a mistake. This was a well-planned out thing that has obviously been going on for a while now. But since this probably the younger brother is her baby boy, who she has to protect and is no doubt spoiled, the older brother is treated like crap here. And she doesn't want to disrupt the family. It probably doesn't want word getting out about making her look bad. I would at that point pretty much be like, all right, Mom, we're done. We're done. You're choosing that tramp of a soon-to-be ex-wife over me and my piece of crap younger brother. We're done. I was furious at her, but she told me to come talk to them when I'm ready to talk like an adult. Yeah, goodbye. Have a nice life. A lot of you guys may think that maybe I'm too harsh, like how could you just talk that way to family or something like that. Well, family can be the biggest bunch of assholes you've ever seen. I'm sure some of you know this. Fortunately, my family's pretty cool, but I do have some people in my family I don't talk to, but by and large, it's pretty good. But this, goodbye. Have a nice life. Have a nice life. My wife and son stayed at my parents' house in the meantime, and my chicken shit brother did so as to avoid seeing me around town. That brother deserves a 100% ass whooping. My brother was always the miracle child of the family. My parents had me in their early 20s, and they had my brother in their mid-30s. I didn't really mind that he was always getting the attention. I chalked up as him being the youngest. But now he's getting a free pass for effing my wife. I was seeing red, and I wanted to make them pay, but I just didn't know how. I don't blame you, and nobody else here does blame you. They deserve some payback. Believe me. I called up Tony to get legal advice and to hook me up with a divorce attorney since I knew my marriage was over. I met up with him in a restaurant and we frequent, and I told him about the situation and showed him the evidence I had gathered. I was hoping / expecting to hear some legal advice, but what he offered to me instead was a nuclear bomb. Tony told me he knew some shady police officers and district attorneys, ones who can get you prison time for the most minimal amount of evidence. At first, I was confused about what he was offering, so he got straight to the point and told me that he could have my brother and wife arrested for illegal drug use. Now, here we go, guys. This is the part where things get interesting, because he could divorce her when his brother decides to come out of the room, kick his ass, and write off the rest of the family, move on. Or he could pursue this. Well, you're going to see what happens and what really happens. When he told me about how it would go, I was conflicted about it. But then Tony told me that he was just looking out for me. According to him, if I had divorced my wife, she would probably get custody, assets, and kick my butt in court unless I changed the situation, which probably would happen. I told him I couldn't do that as I feared that my brother would get kicked out of medical school and my wife wouldn't have any way of supporting herself if she had a criminal record. He reminded me of their betrayal and that if I had done things by the book, then I would see no justice on my end. Okay, so he does things by the book, divorces her, she's going to get custody, she's going to get alimony, she's going to half the shit, and the brother walks away pretty much unpunished. Aside from maybe this guy kicking his butt, which probably the brother's so much of a pussy, he would probably call the police on him and then he'd get busted for doing that. Or he could listen to his friend and lawyer's idea to change things around and then therefore then giving him coming out on top. But there's a price for everything, guys, as you're going to see. I decided to take him up on his offer and paid a sizable amount to put everything into place. The initial plan was that the police officers would come in and arrest my brother and wife for illegal drug use with one of their S-word videos as evidence, then do a clean sweep of the house. Tony guessed that they both get a couple of months of community service but have a criminal charges on their record. So his friend and attorney think, okay, at best, community service, some criminal charges on their record. Okay, they're going to get it, but not horribly bad. Although one could say criminal charges on your record is going to tarnish things for life, but okay. I decided to do it on a day where my son would go to his friend's house in order to avoid him getting involved. So I called up my mother and said I'd be talking to the family after a week and to schedule a day for us to sort things out. My family and wife thought I was going to reconcile and just forgive and forget about the infidelity, but in actuality that day was the day that I was going to spring my plan into action. I did not want my parents to get involved, but my wife and brother had been hiding in their house the whole time with no intention of ever facing me one-on-one. Cowards. Then I spent the entire week getting everything ready for the nuke that I was going to drop on my brother and wife's heads. I spoke with the officers in question in advance about the plan, got the family of my son's friend to accommodate him for a few days, and I quit drinking alcohol as it wasn't helping my situation. And by the way, I want to point out that to get the police involved with this little thing, he had to bribe them, which, by the way, is illegal. The day came, and the first thing I did was see my son off. He could tell something was wrong with me, but I just reassured him that everything was all right and sent him off to his friend's house. After my son left, I waited 30 minutes, then came into the house with the police officers in tow. My mother and father started screaming and shouting at me. My wife started to berate me as she was getting cuffed, and my brother started begging me not to do this. Well, I'm sure this all felt good for the few minutes that this was going on, until you see what happens. I was unresponsive to any of them. I think this was the point where everything had hit me. The cheating, the lying, my mother siding with my brother. It's like I froze in place. I snapped out of it quickly when I heard the police officers discussing what they found in one of the bedrooms. Uh-oh. They had found a stash of grass and other drugs. This was not in the plan, and because of that, more officers came and a detective was also called to the scene. So, things are not going according to plan. It's not going to be so smooth as you thought. We were all questioned about it. My parents knew nothing of the illegal substances in their houses. My brother was sobbing uncontrollably. He was taken in a police van shortly after the house sweep. My wife swore that she didn't take any drugs, but because of the video that I submitted as evidence, she was taken away as well. Holy crap. My father didn't say anything. He was just looking out the window. My mother asked me if this is what I wanted, that I had ruined their lives today. I didn't respond to my mother. Instead, I just walked out of the house and returned home. The whole event was traumatic. I instantly regretted what I had done. The officers that I had paid left as soon as the other cops came. Nothing went as planned. You want to talk about unintended consequences? Well, it's going to get worse. It took me a few hours to compose myself, and when I did, I called up Tony to explain the current situation. At the time, I was worried and afraid about the consequences of what I just did, and I would be arrested too for bribing officers. He told me to relax, nothing was going to happen, but it looked pretty bad for my wife and brother. Tony told me that it was out of his hands now, and an investigation has been started, and I should cooperate with the officers to avoid getting into trouble. My wife spent the night at the station and was bailed out by her father. When I saw her again, she looked depressed and utterly defeated. She and her father came to my house to collect her belongings. I made it clear to them that she was not welcome in my home anymore. She started to cry and said that she was so sorry. She explained that I was busy with work and she was lonely. For you guys that watch my videos, how many times have you heard the same thing over again? They get caught, they get busted, consequences. I'm so sorry. And that you were busy with work and I was neglected. Well, then you talk to me. You communicate with me. The guy was obviously at work, busting his butt, providing for the family, taking care of them. And if she was lonely and she felt neglected, to talk to him. That's all you got to do. Instead, just go hooking up, let alone with his brother. Okay, what does that say about her character? Boo freaking who? Tough shit, we're done. No sympathy. She says how my brother manipulated her and forced her to use those substances when she was vulnerable. A 23-year-old bullshit. You are accountable to your own actions. I don't want to hear that crap. Again, the whole thing about accountability. She begged me not to divorce her. How she would spend her entire life making it up to me. Sound familiar? She started to list down, listen to this. This is unbelievable. She started to list down her friends that wanted to sleep with me and how I could get even with her. In other words, okay, here are my friends that actually secretly have a crush on you, so you can go hook up with all of that and everything will be cool. You see how these types lose their minds once the guy says we're done and walked away? Most powerful thing you can do, guys, is walk away. Women hate rejection. Even if they are rejecting you, they hate rejection. Most powerful thing you can do is walk away or reject them. Makes them crazy. But most guys don't have the balls to do it. Offering her friends to hook up with her friends. Does that sound like she loves you? Does she really love a guy if she wants you to hook up with her friends to make things even? And that goes how her mind works here. I told her I was sorry, but I couldn't stay with her anymore. I asked her not to contact me unless it would be about our son, and I left the room. Good. And I wouldn't contact with her anyway unless it was in writing to make sure that there's proof of this. Otherwise, things could spiral out of control in the divorce situation. My wife started hysterically crying, and after this, her father had to pull her out of my house. I don't know how, but my son found out about my mother's actions. He did not take it well. I tried to comfort him and tell him everything was all right, but the whole situation messed him up. He started to avoid his mother like the plague and refused to see her. My son, who was once the outgoing, outspoken extrovert, became a reclusive shut-in who avoided all conflict. He still went to school, but that was that. He didn't visit his grandparents. He didn't go to his friend's house. He didn't even eat dinner with me anymore. Now, I want to know if this is because he found out about what she did with the uncle, or because of like the whole arrested and the drugs and the jail and all that. If it's because of what she did with the uncle, okay, it happens. But with regards to the whole arrested and drugs and jail and all that, what you're going to see happens, guys, is that, well, unintended consequences of what this guy was trying to do. 2 months passed and the investigation concluded. My brother was expelled from his university and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. 5 years is no easy thing. My wife was sentenced to 2 years there and got her teaching license revoked. Holy crap. Remember, his lawyer friend said, oh, no big deal. It'll be community service and, their records, criminal thing on their records. No. Some decent prison time, especially for the brother. And does this sound like this brother, the way he was crying and hiding in the bedroom? Do you think he's the type of guy who's going to handle prison very well? We got divorced a few months after. I still had to pay her alimony and divide our assets equally. But I got full custody with her getting supervised visitation when she got out. So after all this, which his lawyer friend told him, oh, no, no problem there. He still had to pay alimony. He still had to divide the assets. The only thing is he got full custody because obviously she went to the slammer for some time. I stopped talking to my parents after the incident. They tried to reach out a few times, but I cut them off. I don't blame you there. Me and my son eventually recovered from the whole ordeal, but it took a lot of therapy and time. He's doing a lot better now and has started talking to his mother again, but I don't think their relationship will ever be the same the way it once was ever again. Well, again, I want to know because of him finding out about what she did or because of her going to jail and all that. My ex-wife has been living with her father ever since she got out. She still says I'm the love of her life and she still yearns for us to get back together. Fat chance, honey. The last time I checked, she is jobless and is probably being cared for by her dad and the alimony that I sent. My brother gets released in 2023. He's dead to me. But I still feel some remorse for taking his future away from him. He was close to finishing medical school and was planning to start his practice. Now he's got a felony record for illegal substances and will probably never realize his dream to become a doctor. I still think about what I've done, about how everything would have been gone if I didn't take Tony's offer. Well, you make your bed and you lie it. You can't change the past, dude. I feel like I made everyone else's lives worse by dropping a nuclear bomb on them. Me and my son are doing better now, but my parents, my ex-wife, my brother have had their happy lives seemingly come to an abrupt end. If you read this, thank you, SSM. I wish the best for you and your viewers. Well, there you go. I wasn't kidding, guys, about the revenge part and this unintended consequences. Now, here's the big question for you guys, and I will be eagerly awaiting this in the comment section. Did he take it too far? Did this go too far? Or, no. You think that this definitely they got what they deserve? Or are you somewhere in the middle? For me, I think the beginning part, okay. But as the rest, with him ultimately 5 years in jail for the brother and 2 years for the wife, no. That's too far. And him bribing the cops, no. Not a good idea. It's amazing it hasn't come back to bite him in the ass. Don't get me wrong. I would... In that situation, I wouldn't be talking to the parents unless they're willing to actually apologize for their actions and all that, because they are his parents, but only if they came to him. But pretty much until that would happen, I had nothing to do with him. I would have ended the marriage right away with the wife. The brother would have gotten one hell of an ass kicking for me. And he would have been dead to me too. But the whole thing involving the police and all that stuff, to me, that's too far. You know, you can get a laugh about these things, but if you really look at it, believe me, the ex-wife and the brother deserved a lot of things, but that was, in my opinion, too far. Some of you guys may disagree with me. That's okay, but, I'm older. I've experienced things, and I see things differently. And contrary to a lot of people may think, I'm not the heartless bastard that a lot of people think I am. So, but anyhow, guys, quite the story. To the guys send this, hey, I wish you all the best. I would probably consider not taking advice from Tony the lawyer about these types of things going forward. Obviously, you maintain your friendship, but you got to do what you got to do. But I wish you the best. I wish you really good luck with your son. I hope everything's cool with him. And you go from there, But I appreciate you watching the channel to support. But I know, obviously, you regret what happened. You're remorseful about that type of thing, What's done is done. You can't change the past. Only you can decide how things go from here, But I wish you all the best, and probably you're not going to be thinking about getting married anytime soon. I probably wouldn't do that either. But in the future, if you do get in relationships again, I would really pay attention to the red flags and all that. But because you thought everything was cool, and look what happened, But this goes to show you that what people are capable of, even in family, it's just terrible. But it is what it is. So, all right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.